Okay, hi to everyone. Laura, good morning to you. Lovely to have everyone here. Oh, and Ray, Chloe, hi there, Diane, lovely to see you. Hey, everybody. So I'm in vertical because for some reason, it's just YouTube's not letting me go into landscape at the moment. So, hi, Martine. The last two times I've tried to do this, it just doesn't have that as an option. I don't know if they're rejigging it or something. And I would love to be in landscape. Sorry, I have sunscreen on, and you'll see I haven't shaved for a couple of days. So I've had my first 2 days off. Hi, Karen. Good morning. Hi everyone who's joining. I've had my first 2 days off in just weeks. If you've been following me, I had a fun week of tours and everything, and I've been all over. But we're in a heat wave, and so if you did see on my uh, on my Facebook, on my To Me Travel Facebook yesterday, I rode my bike to Canmore, which is to my friend's house, about 28 kilometers. Oh, sorry, I just have to show you. Sorry, give the reveal, because right out there, down in the valley, that is the Rocky Mountaineer going out. That is right on your screen. There's the Rocky Mountaineer, clearly leaving on time. Bonjour, Michelle. So there it is. And I had this lovely couple from Texas who I just really enjoyed their company. Just Friday afternoon, I took them on the whole route they're about to do now. So I was able to show them the spiral tunnels because they're going to be going down through there in about an hour and a half. So that is Rocky Mountaineer going out right between the Vermilion Lakes and the Bow River, of course. So that was a much quicker reveal. And so there it goes. Hi to everyone joining. I do have to remember when I'm on Facebook or on YouTube here, I need to repeat questions and things. Hey, good morning from the Highlands. But because apparently when you replay these, you don't actually see the comments. So I'll try and repeat your questions. And when I'm in the middle of our visit, I try not to say people's names too much because I'm sure it sounds a little funny to anyone who is rewatching this. But looking down below, so I am on Sleeping Buffalo Mountain or Buffalo Guardian Mountain. And yes, indeed, particularly because my friend Robert is here, who's Canadian as well, I'd like to acknowledge that I am on Treaty 7 territory here, land of the Blackfoot First Nation, Stoney Nakoda, Tsuut'ina, Métis Treaty 3. And as you look north, you're looking up towards Treaty 6. So I can just see, let me zoom one more time, because the actual Mountaineer is just out there right now. There it is. Just going out around the bend. And those people will be sitting on that train till the equivalent. So right now it's 8 a.m. here. They'll be getting off the train at about 7 p.m. in Kamloops. It'd be 8 p.m. here. 12 hours is just too long for my taste personally, but hey, to each their own. There is the Massif Range out there and Mount Bourgeot. Now, I know everyone has their favorites, and it doesn't need to be a competition. My kind of favorite mountain is Mount Bourgeot there, but that's because I see it from my backyard. So if I've been away, which happens quite a lot, I come home and I look down and I see Bourgeot and I kind of know I'm home. So that's fun. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's fun to connect. So I'll just flip this around one moment and you can come get a view. So the reason I wanted to come up here is we did a little poll on my Facebook and people really wanted a hiking trip. I saw one couple walking down. Aside from that, there's nobody here. That noted, in about an hour, there'll be 10,000 people walking up here. So look at that view out behind me. So the sun is rising and I'm up at the famous red chairs right here. Now these red chairs all go back to 2017, Canada's 150th anniversary, and they put them out everywhere. I think those of you from the East would call them like Muskoka chairs or something, or Adirondack chairs, something like that. We don't really have that tradition, but what we do have, because we just don't have the lakes, the wildflowers are literally wild everywhere. That indeed is a very, the river is, I mean, of course it's a gorgeous color if you find it gorgeous, but, oh, sorry, there's a woodpecker. Let's go see if we can find it. Let me know if you, I'm hoping it's a pileated woodpecker. I'm up on dolomite limestone here. Do you hear that? So people wanted me to do a hike up a mountain. This is obviously the easiest one. I rode my bike up to the upper road, so it really only took me about 20 minutes to walk up here. By the way, these are all juniper bushes around with lots of berries. And I don't pick the berries because, hopefully you're hearing that, I just, I don't want to scare it away. Just give me a thumbs up or a like or something if you're able to hear that every now and then. Just see if I can get a little closer. You hear that? So we have 4 types of woodpeckers up here. See if we can find who that is. I just, particularly woodpeckers and these old soft trees. What they do is they'll start down below. The pileated will go and peck holes in the older trees, and they'll bring the bugs in, and then they'll go up and eat higher up in them. All right, where are you, beautiful bird? It's between. Oh, there's chickadees all up. Sorry, everyone. I have no idea why it disconnected. Oh, there's a fox. There's a fox right there. I have no idea why we lost connection. I never have up here. But there's a little fox. Seen that? Hello, you gorgeous. Nice, healthy. See, this is why you come out early in the mornings. Ah. Hi, so, yeah, I'm sorry that we lost connection. Makes no sense, because I've done so many tours up here over time. I was gonna walk down through the path, but now I'm maybe not gonna chance it, so I might go up a little higher. So foxes are quite low. I've got one in the backyard a lot, who's been there, well, we've been watching him for 3 years now. And so that's a different one, that nice healthy little animal. Isn't that fun? Yeah. Higher is good. And you know, it's interesting, Chloe just said higher is good. And people feel that way in this country with all the cannabis, which is totally legal. I will wander up to the highest peak, but I wanted to try and show you. I was gonna start my way down later on in our visit today and show you the Banff Springs Hotel, but now I'm a little concerned it'll cut out when I move away to the other side of the mountain from town. It shouldn't, but anyway, lots of things shouldn't happen. But I can just come around this little point here and just share with you the famous Banff Springs Hotel. So this is officially called Tunnel Mountain, and there is no tunnel in it. That's very important. So it was Major Douglas, or Major Rogers, excuse me, as in Rogers Pass in the middle of British Columbia, who had surveyed this route. He was an awful man, by the way. He'd come from wars down in the States where he enjoyed killing Indigenous people. And they came here, and the train would follow the river along, of course, as it came across the prairies. There you go, there's the mighty Banff Springs Hotel. But when they came up to the Bow Falls, they couldn't bring the train up the falls. Now, the falls aren't particularly high, they're only 14 meters, but they carry on for about 3/4 of a kilometer. And so then he said, we're going to have to tunnel through the mountain. Well, William Van Horn, whose statue is in front of that famous hotel down there, 850 rooms, blew a gasket and said, I'm not going to wait a year for a tunnel, find another way. And so that's why the Banff Springs is there, looking down the valley at what he calls his $1 million view. Danny, hi there. Sorry. And so the town was built on the other side because they moved the train track around this mountain. But the name will change eventually. This is where our bureaucracy can be very heavy, but the name should change to Sacred Buffalo Guardian Mountain, or particularly Bison, because of course there's no such thing as a buffalo here. And if you see this, of course, from any other angle than where I'm standing at the moment, it looks like a sleeping buffalo. So that's the origin, and they really just named it Tunnel Mountain to kind of shame the surveyor. So, but he's got a pass in BC named after him. There's Mount Norquay, of course, our oldest ski area, named for Norquay, the first premier of Manitoba, who was Métis, so making him honestly the first Indigenous premier. And of course, the premier of Manitoba now is First Nations. So that's just a fabulous thing. And there is Stony Lookout Mountain. So I will take you all up there soon. So at the moment, enjoying this time and being very selfish about it. I'm most days I'm working, guiding, and, and doing a few other things, but a bunch of things on the go. By the way, one more person has signed up for our trip to Japan, and the doors close on that on July 20th, so the end of the week, and then literally it's cut off. So if you're contemplating coming to Japan, you need to decide right away. And then I am going to pay the full amount. Now, like I said, I don't like to say people's names once we're on the tour here, because when you watch the replay, but I am going to say hi to my friend Danny Wilkinson, who has been on lots of trips with me around the world, including Cuba, and Colombia and Peru. So it's so nice to see you here, my friend. And I think it's probably a lot hotter where you are than I am, although these afternoons, oh, that's right. These afternoons, we're getting up into the 30s, so that's the high 80s, but it's cooling off. It was 8 degrees Celsius, so whatever that is, about 46 this morning in the backyard, so that was nice. And indeed, it was just pointed out that aujourd'hui, c'est la Bastille, c'est la journée en France, and I would be sitting at home watching the Tour de France if I could, because I am a real fanatic of Tour de France, but I can't watch it here. I have to pay Flow Bikes for a full year in order to watch it. So very, very frustrating for us in Canada. Seems very unreasonable, and it's not probably very good for the sport either. But yes, over in Paris, they're getting ready for the Olympics. And my friends in France, and I've messaged a few of my friends in France because they came through for us to block the extreme right from winning the election there. So, I mean, it was still a weird gamble from a weird president, but thank goodness the people of France stood up against that. So, yeah, it's been a great, it is like the 8-minute recaps, right? So that Roglic, by the way, is a really neat person because apparently he's super polite. Check that tree out. Oh, there's a squirrel actually just on the side of that tree. No, I'm lying to you. I thought it was a tail sticking out, but it was just the light. Isn't that fun? Trees will eventually always grow straight up. That's kind of their goal in this life. And so they get this funny little shape to them. So it's so nice that you're joining here. So rather than wandering on the path down, we're going to keep going up. So when I say I'm on Dolomite limestone, la jour de gloire est arrivée. C'est vrai, mais pas vraiment, c'est passé. So there'll be people all singing Allons enfants de la patrie. However, I prefer Jean de Pays because, of course, the French national anthem is a military march. And I'm not a huge fan of all that military stuff. So it's, I can't say I'm a pacifist because, of course, there are things worth defending. But yeah, the tree is neat, isn't it? So here we are, a bit higher. So this Dolomite limestone is just a little bit harder. So basically, all of the mountains here, there's 3 thrust faults. If you get down to Waterton Lakes National Park, there's just one giant fault and some rock that's nearly 1 billion years old. This rock around here is about 380 million years old. There is the Mount Royal Hotel. Now, if you have good eyes in the distance, straight out there, you're going to find the Cave and Basin. That's where the whole thing begins in terms of national park. Canada's oldest national park, the second oldest, or second or third oldest in the world. So it is pretty spectacular from that point of view. And of course, the oldest park service. And there is that same shadowy creature, see, who often follows me around. But can that shadowy creature do a jig on top of a mountain? That's a little silly. But as I do curve around, you will see the springs, and I can still give you the 360-degree views because as I curve around up here, there's the Goat Range in the distance, and that range, of course, is out in Kananaskis country, not in Banff National Park, and there is mighty Mount Rundle. Mount Rundle is the perfect one for describing the geology here because you can see how it is thrust up from west to east and 3 distinct layers to it. So it is pretty spectacular. Well, it's very spectacular. It's about 16 kilometers long too. So it's not the longest in the parks. There's a longer chain up there in Jasper. It's the longest one in Banff. And the other end of it, of course, is the town of Canmore. Hey, thank you, Michelle. That is much appreciated. So Michelle just made a donation, which is very kind of you. And it immediately translates on my screen into Canadian. Isn't that fun? So obviously donations are much appreciated if you can. There's a link as well. Look at look at this tree and you'll see the integration into the rock. This is why even after a fire, if a tree dies, you don't cut them down because they're there as part of the system. If you were to take all the trees off, then in spring, when the snow melts, you'd be washing off your topsoil. This is something we learned through, of course, forestry in British Columbia, particularly historically, because in the early days, you know, it was believed that you could just cut trees forever here. And of course, that's not the case. Je vois que tout le monde parle français aujourd'hui. So if we're all speaking French, by the way, over in Calgary, today is Sunday, so it's the last day of the Calgary Stampede. Finn Toomey is in there stampeding. He had a big synagogue event on Friday night, and I believe he went out dancing last night. So I'll be very interested to hear his stories about that. But this means I will have missed the whole Stampede this year. I would have liked to go in for the parade, sort of, but the Stampede has been very, very hot because when we're getting up to the 30s here, that means in the city, it's getting hotter. And of course, when you're out at the Stampede event, it's all cement, right? So now I'll just say to everyone, I just want to say very clearly that I am going to be wandering around back. And if this cuts out, I'll just come back and it seems to reconnect when I point to town. But I want to try and give you some of the views down the back of the mountain, because as I curve around back here, we're looking east and we're looking down towards the golf course. But here's a couple of the plaques up here. This is indisputably the most climbed mountain in the park. So that is the nature of it a little bit. So lots of people coming up in the morning. Morning, how's it going? Good, thanks. So this old sign needs to be replaced. You know, one thing that I've started to see here in the park that is really bothering me is a few people have decided to put graffiti on signs. And normally we don't see a lot of graffiti here, so that is very, very frustrating. I mean, it's awful to see. But do have a look here because you get to know all the different birds. So we're 1,692 meters up here, which is, you know, high or not high. But you've got, the pine grosbeak, and you see the lovely grosbeak, the red one. They're such beautiful animals. This one here is the Clark's nutcracker, the only nutcracker we have in the Rockies. And you distinguish it from the gray jay just because of the size of the beak. So there's so much life up here at any given time. And the warblers are all here at the moment. But I sure hope people were able to get a view of that little fox running along, because that was awfully fun. But what we'll do is we'll head back to see, right now they're asking people not to wander. Oh, actually that's just a tree that's down. So, but if you look in the distance, you're looking out to the Fairview Range. It's actually a tiny bit hazy. Now there is a fire in British Columbia at the moment. And when I was going up to the ice fields the other day, between the Saskatchewan River crossing and the Big Bend, which I've shown on videos, I have no reception there. I've never taken there on a live tour. Thanks, Natalie. But on those, between that section, there was actually smoke in the air from a fire in British Columbia. So right now, the north of this province is extremely dry. We're okay. There was a 30% chance of some rain yesterday. Didn't happen. It did feel that way. Felt like it could have been a thunderstorm for a while. Thank you very much, Ella. I appreciate the contributions. So it felt like there was going to be a bit of rain, but there wasn't. So we're looking like we're sunny right through the next weekend. But as long as we're dropping down into single digits, then, at night, it does cool things off, at least a little bit better. I am going to prop everyone down here for a second because I need to, I just want to show off the fact that I've learned to tie my shoelace. These particular new shoes of mine have really, really long laces, and I don't know why. So I've got these are about a month old, and in about a month and a half, I'm going to have to get new ones because, of course, I do so many steps every day. But it's been nice taking the road bike out again. But you did see, if you saw on my Toomey travel yesterday, I was stopped at the park gates because there was a bear on the path, which is pretty amazing. But the lady who stopped me, who worked for Parks, thanks, Diane, thank you very much. The lady who works for Parks who stopped me was, maybe she was new. She was very, very nervous, in a good way, but she was across the highway and, of course, very busy a Saturday afternoon. And she ran over in traffic, told me to stop. then asked me to go back across the woodbridge, and then asked me to stop anyone else who was coming down. And they have these pellet guns, like the type if you go and, you know, the kind of the paintball guns, that's what I mean. And they use those to move the bears along. So the bear had gotten out on the path, so they opened a gate and they were trying to push the bear back in. So she asked me to stop anyone who was riding down. So I did. I put my bike across the trail and two people came down. And one fellow, unfortunately, I sort of know, but he's riding along. He's like, it's just a bear, I'm going. I'm like, really, dude, just stop. And then suddenly, the parks people said, go across the barrier quickly, because the bear's coming towards you. And suddenly the guy's tone changed very quickly. And we did. We literally picked up our bikes and put them over the barrier. All the traffic was stopped, so we were able to cut through and then ride out on the road. And anyway, no one was hurt, and the bear was encouraged rather poignantly to get back across the fence, because of course you don't want the bears coming out on the roads. And I will take a very quick and serious moment right now. I do want to ask everyone, I have a short YouTube video here on this page. If you would kindly share it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice to see you here, my friend. If on your social media, you could share this YouTube video I made, the province of Alberta, my province, the province I'm here, with Danielle Smith, the Premier, who I transparently have no respect for, and her government have just reinstated grizzly bear hunting. Now, there are fewer than 1,000 bears in this province, most of them in the mountains here. They figure 500 years ago there would have been 7,000 of them. So they're obviously pandering to or catering to it's going to be some crony of theirs who has some kind of hunting business up in the north. And we just need this. It's obviously on our newspaper here. And our member, MLA, the member of the Legislative Assembly, Sarah, from this valley, she lives in Canmore, is actually a bear biologist, and it makes me think that they're also going after her for some reason. So if you would, it is horrible and inexcusable. And and even if, because our Premier seems to think she's all about economics, if you need an economic argument, well, all of the business here is all tourism, and you're going to make everyone's day if you show them a bear. You know, I had this couple I mentioned the other day. I went out to Taka Falls, but I came back on the old road, which around the bend, the 1A is down there. And we came back slowly in the evening until we found a bear, because there was bear scat everywhere. I mean, that's one of the reasons people come here. So it is utterly inexcusable. There's absolutely, I mean, officially an endangered species. So please do share that anywhere you can. I'm just so upset about it that I can only think about it for so many minutes a day, because just that brazen disrespect for science. So coming back to other more interesting things, I don't think anything is more interesting than that, but that building down below is the Park Administration Building, and that was a make-work project in the 1930s, particularly the farm boys. And I do say the boys because, of course, the economy of Saskatchewan fell 72% between 1929 and 1932. And of course, Saskatchewan, at that point, they called it the breadbasket of the British Empire. It had about 1 million people there, and it took till the early 2000s to recover to 1 million people. But they had drought, locust infestations, and then of course, the collapse of the global economy. Canada had no welfare systems back in those days for what is a much more progressive society now, as long as we can protect that. And so they did all these make-work projects. Like building those buildings. And for those of you who join me down in beautiful little field down in Yoho Park, there's gorgeous buildings there, and you recognize them from the 1930s architecture. As I look back over to Mount Norquay, when they were given permission to build a ski run there, they were told they must not cut down any tree. And the very first run was called Lone Pine. And Lone Pine comes right down the front of that slope, and there is literally one pine tree in the middle. You will, if you have very good eyes, you will see the remnants of another ski run right there. Do you see? It's all growing back. That was cut out when Banff applied to host the 1960 Winter Olympics. They didn't get them. I mean, it took until 1988 for the Olympics to come into Western Canada. And that was the Calgary Olympics, of course. There were no activities in the national park during those Olympics. They were over in Canmore and in Kananaskis country. But they've let that grow back, and letting that grow back very intentionally, because they were granted another part of the mountain for skiing. But when I was a child, we could still ski down there. It was great fun. And you get down to the Juniper Hotel. I think it's called the Juniper now, or the Timberline, the one that's down below. It's one of the few hotels that's not actually in the town site of Banff itself. And then there's Mount Brewster Peak out in the distance there. and Brewster Peak, you're really getting into pure wilderness. You follow that valley up and you'll make your way into the Ghost Valley. And that is where the bison were reintroduced in 2017. And the bison population doing so well now that really Parks is hoping that the wolves and the other predators learn how or relearn how to hunt bison, because at the moment they're not. And if the bison population gets too big, that'll be another interesting effect. I also want to show you that marshy land down in the distance. So some of that water right in that one pool is warmer than other sections, and that is because you've got the outflow from the hot springs. Now there's the 9 natural pools, and again, we have no volcanic activity, nothing like that, but we still have hot springs here, and that is because the water goes so deep into this porous rock through here. Again, it's all limestone, goes so deep down to the mantle that it's actually a process of an isostatic breakdown. So it's actually radioactive, but as much as like the light on my phone, and it comes back up as natural hot springs. But that marshy land is where I hang out in May, because that's where you start to see the different migratory birds come in. And when it all looks kind of brown and drowned out, that's because it's basically beaver territory through there. So that's where the beavers have dammed it. They're actually, Parks has put in a drain in one section to try and stop it from flooding over, because it's just sitting on an edge between that marsh and the river. So yes, the question is, a few good questions here. So that marshland is absolutely where all the, I see the migratory birds. I just love going there in May when they start to come through. A bear, great question, whether a bear would hunt a bison. A bear would hunt a baby bison, but a bear's not going to pick a fight with a creature that's like 800, 900 kilos, like 2,000 pounds. Keep in mind, a 2,000 pound bison, so 1,000 kilo or 900 kilo, only has about 200 pounds of meat on it, believe it or not. And I learned this from the Blackfoot elders, tell you the story. But of course, the fur, the bone, that's what they lived off of for so many years. Here's sunrise, by the way. Isn't that just a gorgeous bit of light through the trees? Another great question. Do people bathe in there? Not in that marsh. I wouldn't bathe, and I wouldn't hang out there too much right now because there'll be mosquitoes down around there, because there's a lot of sort of standing water. Of course, we do bathe in the river. And in fact, this pedestrian bridge, right about the heat, right by that bridge, just this side of the pedestrian bridge, the closest one, I swim there this time of year. Now, remember in the winter, half of that river's empty, right? You can walk out on it. But now, there's a little old breakwater in there, and I can go out and I can actually swim in the current. Now that water's cold, but I stay in the afternoon when it's say 28 or 30 degrees Celsius outside, it's 87. I can get in there and swim for, well, I think my record's about 12 minutes, maybe 14, before I start to get a little too cold, because that water is never going to get up above 6, maybe 6 or 7 at most, which is about 42, 44. Like that's how cold it stays. Now I've been going, or all of us have been going around to Johnson Lake. You'd have to Google that, because I get 1 bar reception there. But I usually go in the mornings. I didn't today because I was going to hike up here, but I go at 7 a.m. and I'm often the only person there. Those are some of those videos I posted. That doesn't really count as cold plunging. It's because it's already so beautiful and warm. I mean, it's just spectacular. So there's one other question about the heat. So we are still in a heat wave. Someone tried to say it was a heat dome, but I don't believe that. The reason I say that is we're still dropping below 10 degrees at night, and that's a really good sign. So now all sorts of different wildflowers, wild daisies all around. The paintbrush, I did find some golden paintbrush the other day, which is a real treat. It's quite rare. I found it up by the ice fields. So what I'm going to do, everyone, is I'm going to take you up and over, and I'm going to go and try the path. However, I do want to say, if this cuts out, I'm sorry, but I'd like to start wandering down, because the views down that way are also spectacular. But except at the top here, they really, really ask we stay on the path. And I'm always watching my step, because I don't want to step on any flowers, because they're beautiful. Now, the bears, the black bears, really, Johnson Canyon, by the way, Robert's is asking, is different from Johnston Lake. It's Johnston Canyon and Johnson Lake, shallow lake, really popular place for skating as well in the wintertime. But yeah, the black bears really love the paintbrush, because there's natural sweetness in them. This time of year, you can pull out the tops and they'll taste sweet to you. So let me see if I can make it down. But if I do cut out, I do want to thank you for coming and hanging out and participating. It was really fun to just get a nice crowd of people here for a lovely morning walk up a mountain. There's somebody else was sitting on the chairs, but I'm going to see if I can keep taking you down. you're very welcome. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces here. It's nice to connect with everyone, and you know, the online world, our To Me Travel Facebook, of course, is really doing extremely well, huge numbers. But we also have our little subscriber group, and if you'd like to join, it's like $2 a month. So it's not a big investment, but you'd be very welcome to join. Let me see if I can carry on the path, because I want to really try and show you down the way. So I'm just going to get out of these trees and back on the path where I should be. So let me see, there's a nice little bend up a ways here, and we can look back to the golf course, which is, of course, 1928. So people are starting their trek up here. So, good morning. I get for people who aren't from here, you know, it's considered a real event to hike up. Well, you're very welcome, everyone. It's but listen, don't go away. If I keep my reception, I'm just going to bring you down to some more gorgeous views down here. But that's right. It was fun to put a poll up on the Facebook page. I'm obviously not doing a lot of live things at the moment, or I'm just doing them very last minute because I'm extremely busy, but I'm good busy. And now, there we go. There's where the golf course is. That's another place when I have private tours. Oh, hi. It's a friend of mine from Australia. I really mean, yes, this is a great question. Thousands of people. So we will have, so Banff, as you know, is about 8,500 people, and then Canmore is about 14,000. This valley will easily have 100,000 people in it today, between both people overnighting. There's something like 23,000 bed spaces here in the Banff area. It is a little bit alarming, and there's a big conversation to have. Morning. Morning. There's a big conversation to have because, you know, we Googled it. I sat and had a really fun lunch with some old friends in Canmore yesterday. We had just a great catch up, which is so nice. In fact, one of my friends works for WestJet and travels almost as much as I do. But we were just putting into Expedia just to have a look. And you know, you cannot find a hotel room in this valley for under $500 right now. And if you're staying up at the Springs, you're easily spending midweek over $1,000 for just a basic room. So that's one of the challenges, but this is one of the hikes that people do. By the way, when you do hike here, please be extremely careful of the limestone. Gets worn. It's much softer rock than other rocks, and it gets very worn. And so it's very easy to twist an ankle on the way down. The other thing to always watch for are these roots. Look at that. Can you imagine? Pretty easy to get your foot caught under one of those. So, of course, far more accidents happen going down than going up. I can hear a helicopter actually in the distance. Yeah, the numbers, well, there's just so much conversation. I actually listened to a BBC thing yesterday morning about, you know, the conversation of over-tourism in Europe. And they also mentioned Japan, and that's why I very specifically chose not to go in cherry blossom time of year. Look at this. So I don't know where that helicopter is going, but there is Mount Rundle, and you see all these perfect fault formations down through here. Isn't that just spectacular, everyone? And now have a look at the river as a river runs through it. There is a lovely braided river. All the channels are running at the moment. And a little bit of haze up in the sky. Now that really is just more evaporation. If it looks brown at all, then you're actually talking about smoke. Now we can rock climb on these cliffs, and my very, very dear friend, who I think some of you have met before online, Rod, is coming out from the city today. There might be some cherry blossoms, but it's much more a spring event. But he's coming out, and we're going rock climbing this afternoon. So I have not climbed outside this year. Look, it's that same shadowy creature is always following me. You'll see that we're in this vertical format, which I prefer to be in landscape, but at least I can read everyone's chatting. So yes, we're gonna go climbing probably at Sunshine Slabs if you're a climber. If we come and climb here, it's more of a multi-pitch. See that? Do not throw rocks, climbers below. Also, please do not throw rocks or climbers below. And by the way, if I ever catch anyone doing this kind of graffiti when I'm here, I might just throw a graffiti artist below. It's one thing that, and it's even people who put up those little cairns and all those sort of things. It's totally unnecessary. Remember, take nothing but photos, leave nothing but footprints. But isn't that a spectacular view? You'll see some snow. The top of that mountain is 2,949 meters, so about 10,000 feet up at the top. But this is really, to be fair, a very easy walk, unless you've never walked up a mountain, and then it's, of course, more challenging. I am going to put up, in fact, someone suggested to me that maybe I go on Finn's site and put up like a paid-for tour, but I've got to get back up Helling soon. Tuesday, I'm hoping, oh, there's a woodpecker. No, sorry, you're Robin. I thought it was a woodpecker. Tuesday, I'm going to try and go up Mount Yamnuska. Monday, I am having lunch with my mummy again because I get to see mum so much more this summer, which is important. Yeah, here come the crowds, everyone. So lots of people coming on up now. Good morning. So it's a big event if you've never walked up a mountain. So it is fun. So lots of things. Yeah, leave only a smile behind. I think that's a very, very good point. Sorry, I see. I do agree. Well, throwing rocks is never a good idea. Skipping rocks, mind you, is great fun if you stand at the edge of a lake. And we get a lot of shale in those flat rocks. One other, if we're going to talk about one other negative thing, is I have to bring up a bag. That is a cigarette butt. Animals will eat those. So if for some reason you smoke, just stop smoking, because it is just an absolutely disgusting habit. But also the fact that people feel it's okay to put a cigarette butt on the ground in an area that has threat of forest fire is one thing. And then secondly, with wildlife, it's, I think because we're passing such massive numbers, you've noticed, I mean, that was our first little bit of litter. So it's not that there's a ton of it, but still, I mean, I'm shocked by anyone, even I've done it where a toque has fallen off, or, you forget a glove. But what we do, if someone loses a glove or a hat or anything, we just put them up on a tree and hopefully you go back and find them. But when people leave behind trash, there is absolutely no excuse for that whatsoever. I think that's obviously self-evident to all of us. There's another little peak at the springs down there in the distance. So Sulphur Mountain at the very top, I do need to hike up, but I tend to hike up that one in the winter. So I put on the cleats. It takes me about an hour 5 in the wintertime. It's a good old sweat. It's fun to run down it, but this time of year it's just too busy. You can't even get near the parking lot. So you know what? Now, my neighbors and friends own restaurants here in town and have businesses, and good on them. Like, that's how they survive. It's nice when people spend their money locally. But that's another one of these discussions of the over-tourism. And I do, someone's actually asked me if I could do a talk about that. And I would like to. I just have to get my thoughts together. I do think we need to start looking at some sort of lottery system for coming in here so that, but it cannot be something where it can go to the top bidder, because right now the hotels can charge whatever they want and they'll still be full. And the appetite for the great outdoors is wonderful and it's a good thing. But these national parks, which are, this is UNESCO, so it's World Heritage, but it's also preserved for the benefit of all Canadians. And so it's very scary if normal Canadians, like, because I live here, of course, I get to enjoy it every day. But if I didn't, I couldn't afford to come here more than 2 days a year, and that is a real shock. I actually caught up with a lovely lady and her husband from Michigan, and she's been on tour with me before, but where I go and lecture at Saginaw Valley there. And they came through on a tour, listening to the birds, and they literally had 2.5 hours in Banff, because it was obviously more of a budget tour. Now they get to stay at the Crossing, which I love, but still 2.5 hours in Banff, like that's their entire visit. And obviously it just wasn't in the budget, now, so they were squeezing in. Their itinerary is quite neat. It was a bus that drove all the way from Michigan, but some long, long, long days. So, but I'm glad to hear people have stopped smoking. Where is that? Little chickadee giving us those songs at the moment. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to pack you away in a minute. Do beavers chew on dead fallen logs? That is an excellent question. No would be my answer, because they want the green leaves. That's what they eat. And so they want the live trees, and they'll chew them down. So particularly the deciduous trees, they will chop down all of them, but they'll go for the deciduous ones. And then they can eat the green. Morning, thanks. Um, and then they will we'll bring those branches into their den. So they have their lodge, or their, you know, the big one that's built in. That's sort of an escape route. But they build their dens into the side of the rivers, and they create this nice big pocket of air that's warmer for the winter. And they'll bring in the green branches to eat. And then we've got our lodgepole pine trees here, and then Douglas fir. That's the bigger one. So I have one. Look, these are the cliffs where we can climb. So I don't think we're going to do a big multi-pitch this afternoon. I think we're going to do some nice little pitches. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone. Well, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure. Thanks for coming and hanging out. I'll try through the summer to post and you know, at least a one longer tour a week. And then, of course, always keep in touch, either here or even on the Facebook. I do last minute ones, and I try and do some just on our subscriber group, just for the sheer fun of the people who have signed up. And the subscriber group is just a nice way of just making sure there's not too many of the fake profiles and everything. So anyway, peace and love, everyone. It's so nice to connect. Happy Sunday from Banff National Park, the birthplace of modern tourism. All right, hey, take care. You're all awesome too. It's so nice to connect with everyone. Listen, lots of thank you for your contributions and your friendship and support. And wherever you are in the world, big hugs. And feel free to share this, by the way. It's great. You see the crowds are starting to come up. So I need to go down, get on my bike, go home, juice some greens, and then go rock climbing. So I'll try and post a couple of pictures from climbing. So from the shadowy person here, thanks, Chloe. All right, take care. All the very best. Lots of